Hello and welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA. We are super excited to be with you as you start your service and glad to have you joining this webinar on day one of your year of service. We just want to start with a quick reminder that we have frequently asked questions on the impact of coronavirus on the VISTA program posted at nationalservice.gov/coronavirus. We have this there and we will continually update these as we move forward and as any changes are noted. We know that there are VISTAs online today from all over the country and your personal and VISTA project schedules will vary. We will continue to monitor the national situation and update you and your supervisors as necessary. If you have not already, please be sure that the email address you have in your My AmeriCorps account is up to date. That's the email address that we will use for all official VISTA and CNCS correspondence. But please know that we are so grateful for your service and really want to help orient you to VISTA as fully as possible on today's webinar. So we will get started. And my name is Chris Hawks, and I am joined here with the VISTA Training Director, Barbara Reynolds.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Monday. It is my pleasure to be here with Chris as well. As you know, Chris and I will be leading you in today's presentation. We are joined by a big crew from VISTA and from LSI to support you. You'll see in the chat and the Q&A, there's Kim, there's Kyle, there's Jen, there's Eric, there's a bunch of folks who are going to be supporting you today. And we really, we're all here to keep an eye on the chat and the Q&A and to work with you throughout the presentation.
That sounds good.
We are also thrilled to have a very special guest with us today. Let me welcome the Director of AmeriCorps VISTA, Desiree Tucker-Serini, as she happily provides a welcome on behalf of the AmeriCorps VISTA program to you on your first day of service. Desiree?
Thank you so much, Chris and Barbara. I appreciate that. I think I hear my dog trying to get in to the room where I am working from in my home. Welcome all of you. We are so excited to have you as a part of the VISTA family. As you know, VISTA has a long history of addressing poverty in this country and a proud network of alumni. VISTA has always been about change. How can we change our country for the better and help to alleviate poverty?
Yeah, I think it's just like a recording.
I'm hearing, can you hear me?
Yeah, Desiree, we can hear you. It sounds like there may be some breakthrough on audio, but you sound fine.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was hearing other voices as well. VISTA has always been about change. And as I said, how we can change our country for the better and help to alleviate poverty. And you are all about change, wanting to make the country a better place for everyone. We know that this experience will change the community you serve, but it'll also change you. You will have challenges along the way, but you will overcome them. You really are the best of America. I'm excited for you and for your year of service. You will be joining over 1 million AmeriCorps members who have served across this country and joining 55 years of experience with the VISTA legacy of building and strengthening organizations that are working to alleviate poverty in the U.S. Our country called out to you to serve, and you responded in this great time of need. Thank you so much for being a part of VISTA. I look forward to hearing about all of your stories and the good work you will do across this country in the coming year.
Thank you so much, Desiree, for those wonderful comments. I certainly know national service means a lot to you, and it's It really is a pleasure to have you provide such positive words of welcome for our soon-to-be newest class of VISTA members. So thank you so much.
Great. All right. Well, we're keep going with our agenda. Here is what Chris and I will walk you through today. Of course, you've just had your happy first day of VISTA service greeting. We will talk with you about how VISTA began in the 1960s. We'll cover a few key pieces of your orientation, continue to do that from last week. We'll talk about your service assignments, review, again, critical resources to help you, and then we will wrap up today by officially swearing you into federal VISTA service. Very excited about that. Woo! All right, and for today's presentation, again, we asked you to join us for a few reasons. One, of course, is to give all of our staff who are on with you today a chance to connect with you live and in person and really build some relationship building to start this here at the beginning of your year. As I said, you'll be officially sworn in. We know you all have started connecting with each other. We can see it in the chat. There's a lot of networking going on in there, and we want to always make room for that. And so that's another objective for today. And then, of course, we want to help clarify some key and time-sensitive issues for this very precious first day of your VISTA service, and then make sure that we leave you today with a really good sense of where to find more answers to any additional questions that you may have. So that is what we are all about. Chris, you want to keep going? Kick us off.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. It is certainly a pleasure to welcome you officially to VISTA and wish you a very happy first day of service. We're going to take a look at a few milestones in VISTA's history that led us all to this moment. So VISTA is at its core a program that expands economic opportunity to help Americans escape poverty. As complex as poverty is, we certainly know that it takes a wide variety of strategies and dedicated community members to fight it. We look forward to hearing how you and your VISTA project will work on expanding economic opportunity in the communities that you'll be serving in. And VISTA was born out of the Civil Rights Movement and the War on Poverty in the mid-1960s, and we remain passionate about the ideals that founded the program and committed to keep investing in and lifting up all communities in this country. Our first VISTAs were assigned in 1965, and they served in Appalachia, in Hartford, Connecticut, and the camps of migrant farm workers in California. At the VISTA program launch, President Lyndon Johnson said to the first VISTAs, "The initials of your organization spell VISTA. It is an appropriate name, for you will be opening up new vistas of hope for the poor, achievement for yourself, and greatness for your nation." And the dedication of VISTA members remains a great hope for this country. We know that VISTA alone can't fix the systemic barriers and oppression that exist for poor people, especially people of color, but we know our work can be a part of any possible solution. Here you see the VISTA program structure that we looked at during last week's webinar. You can see the CNCS headquarters on the far left with the CNCS regional offices next. In the regional offices, CNCS awards VISTA projects to sponsoring organizations, which are nonprofits that tackle poverty in a variety of projects in diverse communities. Within that organizational structure, VISTA members, project staff, sponsors, and CNCS staff work together to accomplish these types of results. So in the last year, VISTA's raised over $194 million in cash and in-kind donations for their sponsoring organizations. VISTA's recruited, trained, and assigned over 700,000 community volunteers who collectively served more than 7.5 million hours. VISTA members made it possible for their sponsors to serve 2.4 million children living in poverty in after-school programs, tutoring, and assistance in food security. Programs supported by VISTA members engaged 14,000 veterans and military families in service, and in a single year, over 8,000 VISTA members built the capacity of more than 4,500 nonprofits and public agencies. And this is just a snapshot of 1 year of VISTA service, and we are so proud to support this work around the country and the work that you do. So let's take a look at the sponsoring organizations. In the last year, there were 832 sponsoring organizations managing 849 VISTA projects. Together, the sponsors and project staff placed VISTA members at over 5,000 service sites in 1 year. Of all VISTA service sites in general, about 15% represent rural communities and 85% represent urban communities. It's very important to know that there are different types of VISTA project structures. Some projects place all VISTA members at a single nonprofit. Those are what we call single site projects. By contrast, about 16% of projects place VISTA members at multiple sites or offices. And then there's a third project model, and that's what we call an intermediary. And what an intermediary is an organization that manages all of the administrative aspects of the VISTA award, but then subcontracts with more than one nonprofit organization to recruit, train, and manage VISTA members at multiple locations. And the project models are important because they have a huge impact on every aspect of your VISTA service. So we're going to get a sense of the type of projects represented today. So we have a question coming up. Are you serving in a single site project, a multi-site project, or through an intermediary? So you see the poll come up. We'll give you a couple seconds to answer, and just as a reminder, so a single site, all at one single location. A multi-site is where one project might have different locations, but they send VISTAs to different areas, maybe one in this county, one in the next county, and they're located in different areas, but the same project. And then the intermediary, again, is where it's an organization that manages the administrative aspects, but then subcontracts with more than one nonprofit. So they send VISTAs to this nonprofit and this nonprofit, this public entity. So we see the results coming in, and it looks like single site is the majority here at 60%, and then about even with multi-site and intermediary, and then not sure at 9%. And at this point, we see the not sure. That's okay. You may not know the answers to this question. If not, we recommend adding it to the list of questions for your supervisor this week to make sure you are completely aware of the project design, the staffing structure, and the organizational requirements at your project.
All right. Well, as you know, VISTA's mission is to strengthen organizations that alleviate poverty by mobilizing volunteers and resources. And to support this mission, there are 4 key program principles that apply to all of our work together, to all of VISTA service. The first, of course, is ending poverty. Our program is really dedicated, and every project, every VISTA member, all together aim to end or alleviate poverty, one person, one family, or one neighborhood at a time. Next up, we also are dedicated to empowering communities, meaning that VISTA members often live among and involve community members in planning and carrying out your projects. This is often facilitated by your VISTA project sponsors, and together we all work to strengthen and improve communities in our various ways. This is really our VISTA program's long-term goal, is that by learning together and sharing our values and beliefs, that we'll be able to apply good community development principles to alleviate poverty. Next, of course, we have creating sustainable solutions. A big focus and belief for VISTA is that whatever you develop or create this year in your project, in your area, whether it's a process, a system, or other types of resources, that you'll be able to do that, to really develop those in such a way that anyone will be able to use them once your VISTA service ends, right? So we're all sort of working ourselves out of our jobs. And then finally, of course, the VISTA principle of building capacity. You have heard us say, I'm sure, multiple times that our program is dedicated to having VISTA members increase the size of the VISTA project, increase the number of people served, improve the project's efficiency, or improve the project's impact on the community. And all of these different improvements or increases are really the ways that we define capacity and how we think about evaluating the success of our projects and the work of our VISTA members. So having said all that, I just want to take a minute and hear from you. In the chat, if you could, and we will have a lot of people in the chat. We have a big group today, and that's awesome. But if you could please just take a minute and type your answer to the question that you see on the screen, and that is, which of these 4 key principles resonates the most with you, and why is that? It could be that the ending or alleviating poverty principle really resonates with you. I know many people indicate that that is what draws them to serving in VISTA. A lot of folks say that that's why they join VISTA, to serve. For you, it could be that empowering the community is a passion of yours and that you like to work with community stakeholders to identify needs and then get those, put solutions into action to meet those needs and really help support the community. Could be the principle of sustainability is one that really draws you to being a VISTA. Maybe you're a person who has an eye for processes and developing things in such a way that folks can pick them up when you're done. And or capacity building could also be at the heart of who you are and what you do or what you want to do, the seers of VISTA. Could be that you're a person who sees a project and wants to work together to identify a plan to help increase its effectiveness or expand its impact and engage more people. So I know the chat has been alive as we suspected with your answers to this question, which key principle resonates the most with you and why. I am skimming as I see your answers coming in, and thank you all very much for putting in your comments here. I see a mix, at least from my view, of everything, you know, across the 4 principles, really: empowering the community, building the capacity, alleviating poverty. Jed apparently is dedicated to dancing. That's also delightful. But I see a lot of the VISTA principles as well coming into the chat, and reasons for your dedication to those. So please keep typing your answers here. As I said, and as Chris and I have said, we know we are a large group on today's Zoom, and so it takes a minute or two to get everyone to have enough time to answer a poll question or answer a question in the chat, and that is absolutely delightful. We want you to have that time, and we want to take that time so you all can see each other's answers as well. So again, as I've been remarking and you've been adding your comments here, I do see a lot of variety across all 4 principles for VISTA. And I think that the really, one of the great things about that is that, of course, all of these principles, all 4 of these are important, right? And all of them are useful to the mission of VISTA and to our country, frankly, as Desiree said. These are all critical elements of a caring and service-minded society. And so the fact that these resonate with you in whatever way, in some ways, really shows that you are in the right place. You're a good fit for VISTA, and we are a good fit for each other. So I hope that as you look at and you think about what you'll be doing in your VISTA role as a VISTA this year, that you'll be able to pinpoint some specific activities that really connect to some or all of these key principles. I think that's a kind of an ongoing adventure. Now, I will say together, and again, I see lots of comments still coming in the chat. Thank you for that. I will say that in my experience, this work that we are talking about can be quite incremental, right? It can feel like making progress on creating sustainable solutions or empowering communities or certainly ending poverty, but that is incredibly slow-going work, right? The results of our work together and your work as a particular VISTA member may not be apparent immediately. We know this, and we know this is part of the journey of being a VISTA member. But we also know that we hope and that we want you to have time this year to take a step back as you are going through your service and really look at the larger changes that are occurring in your project and in your community and the results that you have from your work and the impact of your VISTA service. So next, let's focus a little bit on one of the key principles of VISTA, and that, of course, is capacity building and what it looks like. I know sometimes capacity building can be a hard concept to define and describe to others, right? It's a little ephemeral. And it's so important, of course, because it is so central to VISTA's mission. It's really important that we all share a common understanding of this key principle. So in the VISTA mission and program tutorial you completed before today, and I'm hopeful that everyone had a chance to do that, you learned that your VISTA service, your particular service for your year, should focus on building the capacity of your organization and not solely focus or only focus on performing direct service. So this capacity building emphasis is really a unique aspect of the VISTA program, and it sets us apart from other AmeriCorps programs around the country that you may be familiar with. So quickly, I think as you can see on the screen, the definitions are fairly straightforward, right? Capacity building is involving activities that help an organization increase their reach, improve efficiency, scale up, and be more effective, right, as we have said. And then direct service, by contrast, is really all about giving tangible help directly to people who need it. So doing the types of service you can see on the screen here. Again, I think these are fairly straightforward concepts. What becomes tricky is when they're playing out in real life and being able to differentiate between them. So to do that, to make sure that you understand the difference and you have a really good feel of what we're talking about, Chris and I are going to quickly run through a few descriptions of service activities and ask you what you think, right? So again, in the chat, we'll ask you to type your answer if an activity is one that is a capacity building or a direct service activity. So straightforward. Again, here, please feel free to abbreviate with CB, DS, C, or D, however it is however it's easiest for you. All right, first up, Chris, what do we have?
Okay, first up, recruiting volunteers to build houses. So as Barbara mentioned, just to indicate in the chat whether you think it's capacity building or direct service. And you can just do a CD or DS, as it looks like many are already doing. And we appreciate the answers coming in. It looks like, from what I can tell, it looks like a lot of CDs, although there's a few direct service mixed in here and there. Just give it another few seconds so everyone can get a chance to think on it. Recruiting volunteers to build houses. And without further ado, we will bust out the answer, and the correct response is capacity building. So the vast majority of you got that correct, and that's because in this scenario, you aren't directly building the house. You're developing capacity by recruiting volunteers who will then be able to do the construction work as well as engage with the organization in other ways. Okay, Barbara, you want to do the next one?
All right, so in this example, what do you think about delivering meals to homebound senior citizens, right? So folks in their home. Is this a capacity building or a direct service activity? And yep, the chat is alive with answers. I'm seeing tons and tons of direct services. Yep, looks like almost a clean sweep on the right side of our screen here for direct service. Okay, and we'll show the answer. Of course, you are correct. Very, very straightforward. Could not be clearer. Delivering meals to seniors is direct service. And it is, as many of you have possibly done in your own volunteer life, right? It could be a Meals on Wheels program, something like that. But the act of picking up the food and then taking it to the seniors' homes is, of course, direct service. Now, VISTAs could be involved in this type of program, right? There is absolutely a synergy between direct service and capacity building, where a VISTA could help by improving a meal delivery program. They could help write policies and procedures. They could develop partnerships to help with food delivery. There are ways that VISTAs could do this appropriately through our VISTA program. And as you guys indicated in this very simple example, direct service, it is. What is next?
Okay, how about teaching a financial literacy course to low-income individuals? So again, capacity building or direct service? And we'll give it a few seconds, checking out the answers coming in. It looks like a high volume of DS's. Saw maybe one CB. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep, a
like
sprinkling, I would say.
Great. Keep the answers coming as we get our little drum roll for the answer is direct service. And that's because in this example, it really involves hands-on educating individuals. That's the direct service part. In contrast, some capacity building activities that a VISTA might do would include something like developing the curriculum for the financial literacy course, or connecting with other organizations who can maybe refer clients to take the course, or identifying financial literacy experts to advise the curriculum development. Those would be the capacity building side of that.
All right.
Okay.
So here's our last example. I think it's up on the screen for you now. What do you think about organizing a fundraiser? Is that CB or DS? Yep, lots of capacity buildings going into the chat. I see that all kinds of different ways. Yep, a couple folks said maybe both, not sure. Definitely this is a good example. I think a number of VISTAs, usually a fairly high number of VISTAs, have fundraising in their assignment. So this is one of the reasons why we use this example. All right. Well, with those answers in the chat, then let's move on to the final answer. And the correct answer for this example is capacity building, right? That the act of raising money or funds in this example, raising resources is building capacity, right? It's akin to the recruiting of the volunteers that we mentioned earlier. In this case, the money, the funds that are being raised will allow your project or the project to expand its work, right? To do more of the types of projects that serve the community. So thank you all for going through those quick, very, very quick examples that Chris and I did. I know they are meant to be both quick and easy, and I think your responses in the chat showed these are concepts that are really sticking with you right now, and that's great. And we also wanted to illuminate a little bit how even in a kind of straightforward direct service program like delivering meals to seniors or teaching a financial literacy course, that VISTA has a role to play and a really important one. I think for you, being new in your VISTA role, it's always important to understand the nuances of what you could be getting into. And so that's a little bit of what we were hoping to do with this very simple exercise. And also, as I said, to really give a nice distinction between the concepts of capacity building and direct service.
Okay, so far, as you look at the agenda, we've reviewed some of the really important aspects of the VISTA program to help you build out your understanding and ability to answer the what is VISTA question. And next up, we'll quickly review several key tasks to complete during your VISTA member orientation, or VMO. So here's another look at the structure of your VISTA member orientation, your VMO. As we discussed last week, these are the 3 phases. And whether you're physically on site or teleserving, the structure is really the same. And as a reminder, this structure is also reflected in the VMO checklist that you received by email. There's a link in the helpful links for that VMO checklist, but we discussed it last week as well. And you can also find a link to the checklist in the chat now or very shortly. We'll place that in the chat. Also, as a reminder, you were invited to participate in an online, name-based criminal history background check prior to your start of service. If you have not yet submitted the required information for the background check, or you did not receive the email notification with instructions to complete it, please email vistafingerprint@cns.gov. That email is also reflected in the communication sent by email from VISTA training. Just if there's any questions on the online check aspect, if you haven't, especially if you haven't received the email, just reach out to VISTA Fingerprint at CNS. Just a note, we'll be replacing the previous process of submitting fingerprint cards. We used to have all VISTAs submit physical fingerprint cards by mail to headquarters. But so the online check is a much better option, especially given our current COVID situation. And also as I'm looking at the slides. Oh, okay, here's the slide. Okay, and I saw the answers coming in. I was trying to keep it a surprise, but everyone already saw it. So let's go ahead. All right, I was trying to catch y'all off guard. So just as a quick refresher, we do have a couple questions for you regarding benefits. Just a kind of a refresher from last week's countdown webinar. So we should have a poll open, or if you don't see the poll, you can certainly answer in the chat, just true or false. So federal taxes are withheld from your living allowance, but state taxes are not. Quick, should be a quick question, quick answer, yes, no. We'll just give it a couple seconds for everyone to respond. Looking like a lot of trues in the chat. It's looking very similar in the poll, which will close in just a second at 96% true. Wow. And the answer is true. That's great. Federal taxes are withheld from your living allowance, but state taxes are not. Just a reminder that you are responsible for determining if you will owe state taxes, and we recommend by checking with either your tax preparer or comptroller can provide that information. All right, we have just a couple more for you.
All right, so here we go. This time in the chat, if you could type in your answer to the blank in this question or in this statement. If you originally elect the education award, you may change to the cash stipend at any time before the end of your blank month of service. Fill in the blank. What is it? Lots of answers, rolling. Okay, I think I saw someone wrote 40th, and I know that was a typo, but lots of tenths going in there. 100th, I think I saw as well. Again, people, I hope the service year isn't going that long. But yep, the correct answer is roll, the 10th month, as you all indicated. Absolutely correct. Thank you for that. It is in the 10th month of service that you could make that change to the cash stipend once you've started now. What is next?
Okay, so for this one, we should have another poll up here on the screen. But again, if you don't see the poll, by all means, type your answer, just a quick yes, no in the chat. If you currently have or have completed enrollment in other primary healthcare coverage outside of VISTA, then the healthcare allowance is for you. Is that a yes or no? If you currently have healthcare coverage outside of VISTA, then the healthcare allowance. So looks like a lot of yeses in the chat that I can see. A few kind of like maybe question marks and not quite as straightforward as our first poll just a couple seconds ago. We'll close it off, but it's at 87% yes with 13% no. Okay, so the answer for this is yes. So the vast majority of you got that correct. So if you have healthcare coverage outside of VISTA, then the healthcare allowance is there for you to help reimburse for maybe a copay expense or expenses that go towards your deductible. The healthcare allowance can help in reimbursing for that. So also just please remember to look at the specific details of the VISTA healthcare benefit on the VISTA campus so you know which benefit may be applicable to your situation. But thank you so much for your responses on this question and the others. Y'all did really great. So let's kind of switch gears a bit and talk about some important issues that you learned about in the Civil Rights and Responsibilities course on the VISTA campus. The VISTA program takes very seriously the issues of discrimination and harassment, so we want to make sure you're all aware of your rights as well as your responsibilities. As you learned, discrimination is when receiving treatment that is different because of a difference in sex, race, or any other protected class. Harassment is behavior that is severe or pervasive and creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. If you believe that you have experienced or witnessed discrimination or harassment, and if you feel safe and comfortable doing so, here are the steps you should take. Approach and talk directly to the person you suspect of engaging in harassing or discriminating behavior. If that does not work, or if you do not feel safe and comfortable doing so, you should talk to your VISTA supervisor. If you cannot go to your supervisor, or maybe you do and the matter is not resolved to your satisfaction, you should contact your CNCS regional office. And then finally, you can contact the CNCS Equal Opportunity Program, or EOP. Rights go hand in hand with responsibilities. So while you have the right to a service experience that is free from harassment and discrimination, you also have the responsibility not to subject anyone to harassment or discrimination. So please be conscious of how your words and actions might be perceived by others, whether fellow VISTAs, staff at your site, or community members. As a reminder, so you see the contact information on this slide for Equal Opportunity Program. That information is also included in the handout for this session in the helpful links document. And also throughout your year of service, you could find this in the VISTA member handbook on the VISTA campus. And also, AmeriCorps VISTA is a federal program, and like anything supported by taxpayer funds, we need to ensure that the program is well run, doing what it's supposed to, and spending money wisely. Like all federal agencies, CNCS has an Inspector General whose office is responsible for preventing and detecting waste, fraud, and abuse. Most VISTA sponsors are super familiar with the rules around allowable service activities and those that may be prohibited, and it is important for all of us to pay close attention to these. There are just a few red flags that we want to just point out and make sure you're aware of. So if you are being asked to take over the work of a staff person, say someone who is out on extended leave, for example, that is considered replacing staff and it's not allowed by VISTA. Or if most of what you're doing is administrative support for someone else, that's also not appropriate work for a VISTA member. You should be focusing on the things outlined in your VISTA Assignment Description, your VAD, which ties directly to the overall project plan that was approved by CNCS. And also, the majority of your work should be capacity building that Barbara just discussed, and we just had the activity. So it should be on capacity building, not direct service, the vast majority. From your coursework and today's activities, you should have a good idea how to distinguish between the two. So just please pay close attention and follow up if you are unsure about your service assignments. And as Barbara mentioned, and we talked about, some direct service here and there is allowable, but the vast majority should be focused on capacity building. And if you feel you're being asked to do things that are not appropriate for VISTA members, we ask that you first talk about it with your supervisor. From there, you can talk with your CNCS regional office. If the issue isn't resolved, or if you want to remain anonymous, you can contact the CNCS Office of Inspector General with the information you see at the bottom of the screen here. And similar to the previous slide on rights and responsibilities, this info is in the handout for today's session, and it can also be found at any point during your year of service on the VISTA campus and the VISTA member handbook.
All right, so now we're gonna keep rolling and take another look at the in-service phase of your VISTA member orientation, or your VMO. Today, of course, you are starting your day one, you're starting your on-site orientation and training, or OSAT, we love an acronym, and you're starting your OSAT even if you are beginning remotely. I know a number of folks indicated in the chat that you're beginning your service remotely and you will be live and in person at some point later. That's totally cool. And your OSAT is also beginning, even if you're working in a different location. Now, it's important to know that your on-site orientation and training are led by your supervisor at your project site. So the details of your OSAT will vary tremendously from VISTA to VISTA. So lots of variety, lots of diversity there, and real tailoring depending on the project that you're working at. So from our perspective in VISTA, we do ask you to complete additional coursework in beyond today. So once you've gotten your first day under your belt, we swear you in officially as VISTAs. For the next few weeks, there are some additional courses that we ask you to take that you can find, of course, posted on the VISTA campus. They are self-directed, and really they're meant to give you some nice foundational information to start you off strong at your project. So the first is a guide to help you make the most of that OSAT, that on-site orientation and training that I mentioned. The next is a minute intro exercise just to give you a chance to practice some of your lingo around what is VISTA and what are you doing as a VISTA. The resource on the theories of change looks at various ideas about what causes poverty and talks about some of the theories about how poverty could actually be eliminated, which of course we want you to know and keep your eye on. Connected to that is a great video on how poverty is measured in the U.S., some of the real details about what poverty looks like across the country. Going a little more personal to your particular assignment, there's also a worksheet to help you get to know your VISTA assignment description and then use it as a nice foundation piece to develop your work plan for the whole year. There's also a tutorial on how to understand the community you're serving in if you're in a new community to yourself, and you can look at some of the demographic data and research there. And then finally, there's a video called 13 Lessons About Poverty that shares some of the learnings and really the takeaways that have come out of the VISTA program. So all together, we think this package of tutorials, all of this early service coursework, will help really fill out your understanding of VISTA, your role as a VISTA, and then get to know more about poverty in the U.S. and how our program fits into fighting it. We also think these materials in some ways can be very useful for you to share with and possibly work with with your supervisor. So in some of those first meetings that you may be having with him or her. All right, so we've talked about lots of orientation information and different things. We're now going to spend a few minutes visiting with my beloved VISTA Assignment Description. I love me some VAD. This is the one document that really rules your service year. And so we just want to talk about it a little bit and do a little promo to get you to be good friends with your VAD. So as we've discussed on last week's webinar, each of you has a personal, for you only, VISTA Assignment Description or VAD that was created at some point before today by your VISTA project. And at some point could mean really anything. It could mean it was created 2 months ago or 6 months ago or a year ago. And that's a great question for your supervisor. It's possible you've already received your VAD, you got it at your interview, you got it before today, or you've jumped in with it today, whatever situation you're in. And if you haven't yet received your VAD, it's good to know that you can actually download it yourself from your account in the My AmeriCorps portal. Your account is attached to your VISTA Assignment Description. So if you've had it before, that's wonderful. If you don't yet have your VAD, please go to the portal and be good friends with your VAD. Just quickly, all VISTA assignment descriptions, no matter whose they are, have 3 universal elements: the goal for your project, the objectives, and then your member activities. The goal, of course, the project goal is going to be related to or identical to your overall VISTA sponsor's goal. So you'll have a kind of a big picture idea of what it is that your VISTA project is working on. And then the rest of your VAD talks about how you fit into all of that. The objectives, which of course flow from the goal, talk about what you specifically, so your specific assignment, what you'll be achieving by the end of your service year. And the objectives really bridge from that broad umbrella, high level, big picture goal to the specifics of your member activities. And then as you would imagine, the activities, of course, are going to specify some details about what you'll be doing this year. And together, all of this, of course, forms a nice tight little package, which is why I love me some VAD. The activities add up to the objectives, and the objectives really roll up to that big goal. So because the VAD is the starting point for you to develop an up-to-date and a detailed work plan for the year, we really encourage you to focus on it right away with your supervisor. And then also to keep it in mind as you move throughout your year of service. We know from different experiences with projects and members over the years that sometimes adjustments will have to be made to your VAD because there may be new activities that come up. I mean, we know certainly right now there are a lot of changes that are occurring in communities around our country because of the current situation with the coronavirus. So it's absolutely normal that things may be evolving either now as you're starting and your VAD needs to be updated, or as you move into and through your year. So it's a living document as well as a great starting point for you. As I said a moment ago, there is a worksheet, a very basic worksheet in your early service coursework that's meant to help you begin to examine and really work on the VAD right alongside your supervisor. It's a good place for you to start talking about some of your step-by-step tasks and things you want to work on.
Okay, we'd like to hear from you again. So based on what you know about your VAD, about your VISTA assignment description, what will you be doing as a VISTA? What steps, tasks, or activities will you be doing to help eradicate poverty and build capacity in your community and in your organization? So again, we just ask that you please type your answer in the chat and be sure to select all panelists and attendees, because we want to make sure everyone gets the chance to view this. This is it's a good opportunity to see what everyone else is going to be doing throughout the country and other communities. So this can be a couple of words or a brief sentence if you like. Doesn't have to be too long or too short, however you wish. We see some of the answers coming in. Evaluating a financial tool, developing team on fundraising projects, social and racial justice at the YWCA. Oh, it's going too fast. I'd be lying if I said I could read all of these coming in. I cannot. It's going way too fast. But this is a really good part, and we do enjoy reading these, especially afterwards when we have a little more time to go through it. So yes, please keep these answers coming in. And again, it could be just a brief sentence. So what are you doing? Based on your VAD, what will you be doing this year? It's remarkable to see the wide variety of responses. I hope you're able to kind of peruse and view what your VISTA colleagues will be doing throughout the year. So with those wonderful mentions in the chat of what you'll be doing based on your VAD, we want to take this discussion actually a little bit further. So let's talk about what happens as a result of your service. What if, for example, so I'll mention there on meetings, planning meetings. So what if you plan a community meeting? If you bring people together around a common issue in your community, what is the impact of that activity?
Yeah, similarly, we saw a bunch of folks typing in the chat that they're going to be working on fundraising and writing grants. What if you are writing grants this year as a VISTA? How would writing a grant actually make a difference in your community?
And then recruiting volunteers, that's a big one. A lot of VISTAs are out there recruiting volunteers. So what if you recruit volunteers for your project? Why specifically is it important to have to have other people help with your project or organization.
Yep, and if you are working on curriculum design, what if you write a lesson plan? What purpose would that lesson plan achieve, and how will it impact others within your community? So the big question we are asking you now to think about, and certainly there are no fast and easy and chattable answers, I think, to these big questions, but we do want to ask it, and that is what if, right? What if you conclude all of the activities that are in your VAD and you do all of the different types of service there? So we ask this because we want you to reflect on why you're serving now and, frankly, all year long. We think taking the time to think about the reason behind your activities and the purpose of the things that you're doing and that you will be doing will really help you understand and stay focused on the intended impact of your VISTA service. So thinking about that, your own what if question, when you're answering this, what impact do you hope to make as a VISTA member? And by impact, we mean what will be the end result, what's going to be the big result at the end of your service, rather than what will your activities look like. What will happen in your community when you're successful? And so again, these are big questions that Chris and I are posing to you with no easy, quick, and chattable answers. So I do see a lot of really good questions or good answers going into the chat. Thank you for doing that. So we think, as I said, thinking about this question about what impact you will make is so important at this point as you go into your year of service. And I mentioned earlier, fighting poverty is never done, unfortunately. It's an ongoing battle that we are engaged in together, and you are part of that battle. We are all part of that battle, and we're in this together. So we think keeping the impact in your mind about your particular service can really help ground you here at the beginning, and then possibly help get you through a time when you may be struggling to see the impact, or you may be struggling to keep up your energy for your year. So I do see lots of great comments in the chat about helping communities get resources so that they can thrive. I see helping people become more educated, improving the environment. Yep, I think you all can see as well. There are all different ways. I was working with tribal youth, I saw a few moments ago, helping folks in their homes who need accommodations because of disabilities, helping different types of citizens, new citizens to the country. Yep, a lot of really wonderful impacts that you are noting here. And right, these are all longer term and wonderful service that we're engaged in and that you'll be engaged in your community. And they're much bigger and broader than some of the details that may be listed in your VAD. So as I said, we hope this will help keep you going, keep getting you oriented now. I do think it's so inspiring to see what you're writing in there, and so hopefully you will enjoy seeing that as well and looking at the comments from your colleagues all over the country.
Agreed. Thanks, Barbara. So with all of those great outcomes and activities and projects and communities in mind, it is now time on our agenda to make you official VISTAs. You may remember from the introductions in last week's Countdown to VISTA Service webinar that we are all located in different communities. Barbara and I are working at home in Baltimore and Greenbelt, Maryland, respectively. And here's a quick look at where you are serving across the country. So we hope that you just kind of imagine, if you will, all of these VISTA faces on screen with you taking the oath together, over 800 VISTAs starting today. And we also, before we get into the oath, we just want to take a couple moments to discuss the oath of service. So the oath of service is a required and important step in becoming a VISTA member. Because of its importance, we're actually going to pause the chat for just momentarily in order to focus on the oath. If you have any questions at this time, the Q&A is still open. It's open throughout, so you can type those questions in the Q&A, and our team will either answer them as soon as we can or hold them to the end of the webinar.
All right. So I get to do the great instructions about the paperwork, of course. So to document that you are going to take the oath today, of course, there's a very short form that Chris and I will ask you to do in the MyAmeriCorps portal. It's good to know this is a quick process, just a few really easy instructions. You are going to be able to get into the portal and complete this form very shortly once we end today's webinar. So good to know. You cannot do this at this very second, but you will be able to do it once we log off and end today's webinar with you. So as I mentioned, the instructions, the form itself, super simple. The instructions, I think, super simple, really easy. Sadly, of course, it has to be done perfectly. And we know, as always, with so much going on, we just want to take a few minutes to go over these super simple instructions and do it slowly. It is worth the pain, I guarantee you right now, to do this, just to make sure that we get it right and you are all set once the oathing has commenced. And, you know, of course, as we mentioned last week, anytime there's any delay or anything with paperwork on the VISTA front, it could mean there are weeks delay in your living allowance, which we never, ever want to have happen. So with all of that, let's take a look at the instructions. Okay, so good to know that there's just a handful of fields to fill in that you'll be able, again, as I said, to do once we log off today. You'll put on your first day, today's date, August 31st, 2020. You'll indicate the name of the person who's swearing you in, and that is our own esteemed colleague, Chris Hawks. Chris's name is displayed in front of you, and just make a note of how he spells it. You'll then need to type in your full legal name into the electronic signature. And it's important for you to know, and this I think this can be the bit that trips folks up sometimes. It has to be the same name that's in your original application, right? It's the full legal name that you gave when you applied, the one that's on file at myamericorps.gov. So just a note there. And then you'll check that little box that says, this is me, this is my electronic signature, to verify that this is legal and official. And then you'll click submit, right? So super duper easy. Again, I think that number 3 there, that full legal name bit, is the one that can be a little bit tricky. And again, we hope it's easy, we hope it's fast, and we'll show you these instructions again momentarily. But if you want to capture them now, screenshot it, take a photo, whatever, that's not a bad idea either. And as I said, you'll want to have these instructions ready and handy for you once we conclude today's webinar.
Okay, so now that the logistics are out of the way, let's consider the oath you're about to take. So this is the same oath taken by all federal employees up to and including the Vice President, because the President's oath is just slightly different. In the oath, it includes the phrase, to defend the Constitution of the United States. So if we look at the word defend, this is not a call to arms. For some, in some positions, it may be. But for most of us, defense of the Constitution may be just the opposite of using arms. We're pledging to defend the document that contains our civil rights. It also includes the phrase, against all enemies. So if we look at the word enemies, in the context of VISTA, the enemy is poverty. Here on this next slide, you can see the original oath on the left, along with an alternative version on the right side of your screen. The alternative provides 2 changes that you may prefer. First, you may replace the word swear with the word affirm, if you so choose. And you may omit the phrase, so help me God, at the end of the oath if you'd like. And we want to recognize that since we're all in different locations around the country, scattered in different communities, different sites, and in many locations, that we don't have the benefit of hearing each other's voices as we recite this. But it is pretty cool to know that as you're taking this oath, there are over 800 of your fellow VISTAs doing the same thing at the same time all across America. So we mentioned this as well because it may seem a little awkward to recite the oath aloud if maybe you're alone in a room right now, or maybe if you happen to be on site, you're there, but there's a new colleague there that you just met today, so it might seem weird. But please remember that we are all right here with you, representing VISTA, and we encourage it, and we would like you to please raise your right hand and recite the oath with me. So I'm going to I'll going to recite the alternative oath on the right-hand side of the slide. What I'll do is just kind of read a line or a phrase, pause, as if you're repeating after me, and then continue on. It might not work out perfectly, but I'm imagining 800 voices right after me. So let's do it. Okay, I do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So, woo, woo,
Woo, woo, yay! Confetti.
Oh, you're now a official VISTA member. So congratulations, felicidades, on joining the newest group of AmeriCorps VISTA members. We bring up on this next slide, just as per the oath form, as Barbara mentioned, here's a screenshot to see what it will look like in the portal. Now, again, it doesn't look like this yet in your My AmeriCorps account. It's not there yet. It will appear about 15 minutes after we log off this webinar. So I don't know if we'll go to the full 4:30 p.m. I doubt it. We'll probably log off a little early, but just plan on that showing up at 4:45 p.m. Eastern time in your account. Just a reminder, the oath form must be submitted with correct information today. And I know Barbara already went over just this information, but just in case, your internet was lagging and you didn't get to see that slide. So here's a reminder to make sure you have the correct details on this next slide. We will quickly review the electronic oath instructions. So what you're going to do is you'll get an email about 15 minutes after this webinar and letting you know that your oath is available in My AmeriCorps. You can log in to My AmeriCorps, click that little link on the left-hand side. Your first day of service is today, August 31st, 2020. Type in my name, Chris Hawks, as in the field labeled oath. Sign your AmeriCorps VISTA member's e-signature. As Barbara mentioned, the name that matches what your name is in My AmeriCorps. Middle name isn't, that's a common question. You don't necessarily need to enter your middle name if you have one, just first and last name that matches in My AmeriCorps. Check the box under electronic signature to constitute the e-signature as a legal signature on the oath form. So just a quick little check, and then submit no later than midnight tonight. So please note, we also want to mention that once you submit it, you will not get a response confirming submission of the oath, but you will be able to see the submitted oath in your My AmeriCorps account. So once you submit it, you'll see the details there. It'll be kind of grayed out where it shows the submission. Afterwards, the VISTA Member Support Unit, or VMSU, will contact you if we do not receive your oath form or if any corrections are needed. pass this on to Barbara. Barbara, you have...
Hey, I am here. Sorry about that. My line dropped for a second. I was talking away and nothing was happening. Sorry about that. So yeah, I'm back online. So with you sworn in, and I second Chris's congrats. It's so great to hear that and see that. We just have a few final agenda items, and then we will bid you a farewell today. So as we've mentioned, and just as a reminder, of course, the VISTA campus has a couple of features that are designed to help you connect with other VISTAs. I definitely mentioned this very quickly last week, but just it's worth reiterating that if you haven't already, take some time soon to check out the VISTA map and the VISTA forums and try to reach out to each other that way. As you're getting settled, these can really help you connect with VISTA colleagues early and often. So next up, we're going to talk about identifying with your fellow VISTAs visually and with the VISTA program overall. I think one of the greatest things about being part of AmeriCorps and a part of VISTA is showing off your AmeriPride or your VISTA Pride and connecting with other folks. You never know when you may make a connection with someone who knows about VISTA or who knows about AmeriCorps, as Desiree mentioned. You know, there are over 1 million AmeriCorps alumni all over the country, and I tell you what, they really are everywhere. So what we invite you to do as part of your new role is to identify visually. You can do this in a number of ways. You can put the VISTA logo on a business card if you're in the land of having actual cards printed or electronic cards. You can certainly use the logo there. We invite you and encourage you to affiliate with AmeriCorps VISTA in your email signature or any other kind of official identifications that you use. If you are identified on your organization's website or in any kind of electronic or printed materials, we definitely want you to show some AmeriPride and some VISTA Pride. We think, again, the more visible you are, the more support you may be able to get for yourself. I mean, honestly, being able to connect with other AmeriCorps members in your community or other alumni, I think that's just really wonderful for your esprit de corps. And it can also really help your project, help you identify resources and be successful in your particular role. So yeah, lots of ways for you to show your affiliation. We did provide in the handout that Chris has mentioned, the helpful links handout. There are templates for things like business cards or publications and links to the official logos and how you can use them. You are also going to be eligible as a VISTA for a bunch of free stuff or free gear to help you brand yourself and brand your project with the VISTA logo. You'll get a VISTA polo. I know folks have been asking about that. You can see the polos in the screenshot here. You'll have a lapel pin, a tote bag, a t-shirt, a water bottle, and a journal. So lots of things to help you play with and use during your year, and then also, of course, to identify with VISTA. You, like so much else that Chris and I have talked about, you'll find out how to do this. You'll get the instructions for how to secure your VISTA gear via email. So in just a few weeks' time, once we get you officially onboarded and enrolled, all the settling in paperwork is done, then you'll get that invitation via that email address in the portal. So, and then finally, we really hope that you, as you're getting settled in and hopefully as COVID-19 allows, when you're out and about in your community and you are engaged in service and taking photos and getting things done and collecting stories, that you will share that information with us at headquarters. We love to collect your photos and your stories, of course, because we just love to know what you're doing and how it's going. And then we also like to retweet and really, you know, reflect out the great things that are happening that you are doing or that your project is doing. We love to share your stories and retweet those photos. So please share the information with us.
Okay, and here's another look at the resource list you received last week. This is also available on the Starting VISTA page of the campus, but we want to point it out. And just a quick note, because you see BMSU on this list, just a quick note for those who are relocating. So if you relocated, you should have a travel voucher posted to your My AmeriCorps account. If it hasn't been posted already, it should be shortly, within the next day or two, and you'll get a notification once it's posted. Just a heads up to please try to return that as soon as possible once you receive the email notification. Just the quicker you get it back, the quicker it can get processed. It's always a good thing because it can sometimes take several weeks to get the whole process going. So just a note on that. But for this resources sheet and resources and contacts, again, we recommend you either download or print, however works for you, or bookmark on the website where this is, because it's a good source of information, whether it's questions about sick leave or healthcare benefits, pay schedule, or policy. This list really points you in the right direction. For benefits questions, you can also contact the benefits administrator directly as indicated on the contact sheets. And looking a little further ahead as you settle into your VISTA year, please be on the lookout for networks of current AmeriCorps members and alumni in your area. They may be organized by AmeriCorps program or state commissions. Just a note, and you can find contacts at AmeriCorpsAlums.org. And along with building your AmeriCorps network, there will also be a number of training opportunities this year to hopefully help you continue to develop professionally. Our VISTA training unit staff deliver a series of monthly webinars for VISTA members, VISTA leaders, project supervisors, and new sponsor staff. And next, I want to point out some resources that may help you if you are teleserving full-time at the start of your service. On the VISTA campus, you can find a list of guides, videos, blogs, and articles that may be useful for you, especially if you are not accustomed to maybe teleworking or especially teleserving full-time on a full-time basis. These are really good resources. We also have a recorded webinar that's on demand that includes tips and tricks to telework successfully. You can find that on the member webinars page on the VISTA campus. So the links to those pages on the campus are being posted to the chat in just a second. We'll post those, but they're also, you can find them on the VISTA campus. You can find them in the helpful links handout from today as well. Okay, we're coming up shortly to our Q&A portion, but just a quick note here to please take part in our webinar evaluation. Just a couple moments to give us feedback, what worked, what didn't, because we're constantly reviewing the content and really trying to make it better for new VISTAs. So we'd appreciate any feedback you can provide, and we want to know how we can improve this presentation for VISTA members, and we also want to know what's working, or what we should expand upon. So again, please take a few moments to complete a brief survey. There's a link being posted to the chat, and I believe as soon as you close out of this session, a pop-up will occur for the survey. And what we'll do is we'll take a few moments to go over some Q&A, some answers to some of the questions that came in. Some checking. I know our colleagues, Kyle, Eric, Gina, Charles, and Jen are really going through a lot of these questions that came in. So I'm taking a look, and I don't know, Barbara, do you see any questions as I'm opening up this Q&A pod?
I did, yeah. I was cruising the Q&A a bit, and I think there were a couple that seemed like frequent flyers, and ones that are possibly very generalizable to a lot of folks. One was about submitting a teleservice form. If, as a number of our colleagues on today's webinar indicated they're starting today from home or from a location other than their project site, we do require a form to be submitted to VISTA indicating that and that may be something that's new to you at your site or to your supervisor. Chris, can you just remind folks again where to get that form and if there's any particular tidbit that we want to let folks know there?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's a form on the VISTA campus if you're going to be teleserving or teleworking instead of going into the office, which we know a lot of VISTAs are, especially, right now for COVID. That form's on the campus, and it's a quick form. Just there's a checklist of things you need in order to teleserve correctly, just to make sure you have everything in your home in order to be able to teleserve. And it's other than that, I think it's other than the checklist, it's just kind of signing off your name and sending that to your supervisor. There was I don't believe it's in the attachments for today, and I apologize, but from last week's webinar, the Countdown to VISTA Service webinar, in the helpful links document that was emailed to everyone, there is a link to the teleservice form in that email that was sent on August 25th. So that could be one quick way to do it. I will post a link in the chat right now as well. That will help. And if you can't, go ahead, Barbara.
Oh, no, I was going to say, yeah, I feel like one of our colleagues may have done that earlier in the chat as well, but because the chat is so huge at this point, I think, yeah, adding it in here at this moment is probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay. The other question that came up, I think it wasn't quite as frequently asked, but I do think it's such a big deal and want to raise it up for us, is a few folks asked it's been a while ago when Chris and I were talking with you about capacity building versus direct service and VISTA's key principle of capacity building and our real focus on that for your service. And so several folks asked, it looks like I'm doing a lot of direct service. What do I do? Or looks like I'm doing too much direct service. What do I do? How do I handle that? And our colleagues answering your questions online, I think for many of you gave you direct answers, and that's fantastic. I would just want to restate for everyone so that you all hear this, because it could be a situation where at any point in your year, you may find yourself not sure if what you're being asked to do or a new change at your project or a new opportunity that comes up as part of your service, whether or not it's too much direct service or whether or not it's allowable and appropriate. And so because that is such a big deal, I just wanted to say for everyone that, of course, the first thing we would want you to do is to raise that question to your supervisor and just check in with that person. If it feels like that's not satisfactory and or your supervisor may be new and they themselves may not know enough of the history and the requirements of VISTA, if someone just started in the position, for example, then we would encourage you to go to your CNCS regional contact, and everyone, all of you and all of your projects around the country. CNCS, the federal agency that oversees AmeriCorps, has regional offices, and your projects are managed directly by those regional offices. You may remember Chris showed you a graphic a few moments ago. And so your contact at that regional office is really the next level for you to raise a question about direct service. Really, it's the next level for any major questions you have about your service. But for that particular one, am I doing too much direct service? Is this new activity in my VISTA assignment description, is this VISTA appropriate? Is this capacity building? For anything like that, please definitely chat with your supervisor, and at any point, please feel free to raise that with your regional office contact. Any other questions, Chris, that you came across that you thought were kind of broad enough for everybody?
Yeah, a couple. So one was with regards to, and we touched on this just briefly last week, was with timesheets. So just a reminder, as you're starting off, this is something you'll want to speak with your supervisor on in terms of tracking time at your office or as teleserving. Each projects may have a different program, whether it's on paper or by email or a specific software that's used to track your time. We at VISTA, we track number of days served, and that's conveyed to us by your supervisor. So individual hours would be tracked directly by your project. So that's a question there. A couple other things, because I did see a question about the healthcare benefits, and just a reminder that you will get instructions, and you know, I know we mentioned this last week. It'll be roughly a week. I would like to say later this week, maybe Friday, but it's more than likely on Monday. You'll receive an email with from our healthcare administrator, IMG, with instructions for signing up for either the healthcare benefit or the healthcare allowance. In that 1 week mark, so we're looking at maybe next Monday, that's also when you'll have access to your service letters. That's also when you'll have access to submit a forbearance request if you select the education award. So some of those things, give it about a week for everything to process. Just with so many VISTAs in this cohort starting, the paperwork process might take a little bit, but you should get information early next week on all of that. And just speaking of the education award just now, just a reminder, we had that question today, so that you have up to the end of your 10th month of service to change from the education award to the cash stipend, but you can't do the opposite. So again, just a reminder, if you're still unsure one way or another, today, like right now, is the last second to change from the cash stipend to the Ed Award. So if you're unsure, make sure you go in and make that change to the Ed Award right now. That way you can change it up to your 10th month of service. But if you're all set, you're all set. I had one other thing, Barbara, and I think we can move on, just because it did look, I saw in the chat, it sounded like the oath forms were already unlocked, which is great. We typically do it about 15 minutes afterwards, but if you've already seen it and already working on it, that's great. I'm not going to complain. I noticed a few saying it was still grayed out for them, and I think this may have been answered in the chat, but if you get a notification, an email that your oath form is available, but you see it's grayed out, it's probably because you were already signed in, and it will just require you to like log out and log back in, and it should appear for you. That it should be as easy as that. Wish you didn't have to do that, but you know, that's our My AmeriCorps portal for you.
Great.
Great. So yeah, I think we're coming up to the bottom of the hour. We can move on. We certainly thank you for those questions. And again, if other questions come up, we'll continue to answer in the Q&A pod up until the end of this webinar. But also, I recommend that resources and contact sheet if you have any questions. That'll kind of tell you who to contact for specific questions. But we certainly hope today's discussion helped you build some new connections and clarify some of the complexity of starting your VISTA service, and helped you know where to find information if you're unsure. And of course, we swore you in as an official VISTA member, so welcome to the VISTA team, the VISTA community. And before we depart, we want to leave you with another quote from President Lyndon Johnson. This was also shared at the launch of the VISTA program. On your idealism and on your success rests much of our hope for the final elimination of poverty in our American life. To that, I would add that your service and commitment to community change as a VISTA gives me and us hope that our country can eliminate poverty and the injustices that cause and perpetuate it. So thank you so much. Thank you for serving as a VISTA and serving your communities, and for your participation today. We wish you all the success in the world this year.